Hi, welcome to today's 10-minute talk. The topic of our conversation is going to be college applications. So welcome. I'm Michelle Larson with Money Solver, with Knowledge for College, a Money Solver company. And I welcome you today. I am every man's college coach. If you are a student or a parent and you want to go to college, major in something that'll lead to a good job and do that as cost effectively as possible, you're in the right place. So welcome. In any case, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the Common App and the Coalition App. College application process, much like the entire college planning process, is a lot more confusing than it was back in my day in the Stone Ages. When I went to college, you hand wrote your application, right? You hand wrote it, or if you were particularly fancy, what you did was had a typewriter, right, and lined up the lines and did it. I think I hand wrote mine. But anyway, today there are three major ways that people can apply to college, or students can apply to college. Of course, they can go on the school website, that's number one, or they can use the Common App or the Coalition App. And in case you don't know what those are, a few years ago, an organization decided, what if we created a platform where students could enter all the basic information, right? And then shoot it out to many schools at once. So they created the platform, they went to some colleges, and the colleges said, yes, that's a great idea. We want to streamline our process. And thus the Common Application was born. A few years later, the Coalition application came into being. I guess an organization said, boy, that's a good idea. Why don't we change up the questions just a little bit, go to some different colleges and offer to do the same thing at some different colleges. So unfortunately, they didn't ask my opinion. I think that's a little bit of overkill, but what seems to happen today is many students have to use both the Common App and the Coalition App, depending on the schools they go to. I will tell you, if your school offers a Common App or a Coalition App solution, they do recommend that you use it. So they're trying to streamline the process. Remember, as they're reading these applications, they get tens of thousands of applications, and they're trying to streamline it. So if your college or university offers the option of the Common App or the Coalition App, please do take and use that. So let's go ahead today and start talking about some questions. Probably the biggest question I get is surrounding the extracurricular activities, because what happens is both the Common App and the Coalition App, they limit the amount of activities that you can put in the activity section. So for some, that's good because they don't have that many activities, but for others, they don't know how to list them in what order and what they should leave off. So if you're in the camp of you don't have enough activities, as long as you were doing something with your time other than playing video games, perhaps you're an athlete and you spend all your time being an athlete, or you had a job, or you had to take care of siblings, as long as you had something going on, colleges understand that. As if you have too many activities and you don't really know how to list them, let's talk about this. So there are other places in the application process to enter things like activities, and academics and that sort of thing. So let's say you're in National Honor Society and you don't have room to list that in your extracurricular activities. Don't worry, there is a section for that. Let's say you don't have an opportunity to list your volunteer activities. Again, don't worry, there is a section for that. But in general, please remember that you don't have to they don't have to be school related. They're anything you do outside of school. And in general, what you want to do, if you do something that is related to your major, I would list that first and foremost. So if you're a nursing student or a soon-to-be nursing student and you volunteered in a hospital, or you had an internship, or you job shadowed, or whatever it was that you did, definitely put that down. The second thing you want to list is any leadership roles. Did you start a club? Were you president of a club? Were you a varsity athlete? All of those things. Sports should come directly after that, especially if you were involved all 4 years. And finally, you want to list out things like your volunteer activities. And again, if you're just volunteering at multiple places, and if you're in Florida just to get your 100 hours to get Bright Futures, don't list all those places. But if, for example, what you did was you went to the soup kitchen every month all 4 years, that's a good volunteer activity to list. Does that make sense? So if you have questions while we're going through this, please make sure that you respond in the comments. I will get back to you either, I will certainly answer that question either during the course of this 10-minute talk, or I'll reply via comments. So please make sure to do that. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit that like button. So the next level of question that I get is all around when to submit the application. So I'm a big fan of submitting it as early as possible. Many early admission deadlines are November 1st, so I want my students to get it done by November 1st. But what happens if your transcripts aren't attached yet, or if you're still waiting on the letters of recommendation? As long as your stuff is done, go ahead and submit. Colleges certainly understand that you have no control over the transcripts or the letter of recommendation. Certainly follow up with teachers and guidance regarding the transcripts and letters, but don't hold your application back waiting for those. So that's number one. Number two is, with your letters of recommendation, keep in mind they ask for one guidance counselor and one teacher. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, I don't even know my guidance counselor. She's maybe only seen me a couple of times. Well, they didn't ask my opinion, so sadly, they asked for the guidance counselor to give that. Now, guidance counselors are used to writing letters of recommendation. What I would do is take and give them a little resume or a little indication of things you do outside of school that will help them write a more personalized letter of recommendation for you. The next question I get regarding submission is when do I submit if I don't have an SAT or ACT score that reflects my ability? So this is a tricky one, because much like almost everything in college admission, it is pretty college centric. And what I mean by that is it's not a one size fits all, but I'm going to give you a general rule of thumb. So if you're on the cusp of getting into the school, or you know you're going to get into the school, but you think you can do better, go ahead and submit the application. Sometimes if you're on the cusp, what will happen is they will invite you to summer session or perhaps January session. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I just want you to be prepared in case that happens. You can go to the school. Let's say you take the SAT and you ace it, or you do much better. You submit that score, and you go reach out to admissions and ask to be moved off the either wait list or the summer or fall winter term. Does that make sense? So that's how you handle that. Regarding other submission questions, one thing that it wasn't really a question, but something that I do know is I absolutely want it to be perfect. So the applications open in August. You have plenty of time to get it reviewed. This is not a time you do not want to have a typo. You do not want to have a misspelled word. Please make sure you get your application reviewed before you hit the submit button. I review several applications with all of my students. If they send it to me, I'm happy to review it. One thing that I have noticed, so I just want to point it out, again, not really a question, but I certainly want to point it out to you, is that the applications ask for short answers. So they ask things like, where were you employed, or were you employed, or what clubs are you in, or what internships did you have? And typically the responses are very short. They say things like, I worked at Subway, I made sandwiches, or I volunteer at the soup kitchen, I serve food. I don't want you to answer those questions like that. What you need to do is you need to answer them in the vein of, as a Subway employee, my responsibilities included prepping food, making sandwiches, running the cash register, or the things I learned as an employee at Subway include. Does that make sense? Isn't that much better than I made sandwiches? I work at Subway and I make sandwiches. Avoid the I if possible. I know it's about you, but if there's a way that we can avoid the I, that would be great. So let me see what other questions I have. I talked about short answers. I talked about extracurricular activities. Make sure that you have those letters of recommendation. Don't feel bad about following up with those letters of recommendation. So if you've asked and it's been about a month, feel free to go to your teacher and or guidance counselor and just put a little bug in their ear. We don't want to be too obnoxious about it, but certainly a quick reminder is easy enough to do. So that's really all I have for you today. If you've enjoyed this video, please like our Facebook page. If you're watching a repeat of this video on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Certainly Please share this with your friends and families if this information was valuable for you. And finally, what I think I'm going to do is go ahead and offer, I've got a great essay guide. So if you will private message me or write in the comments your email address, I will send you the Common App essay guide. I think you'll like it. It gives brainstorming ideas. It talks about what they're actually looking for. I don't have time to talk about the essays today, but I just wanted to give you kind of a down and dirty intro to the Common App and the Coalition app. If you have questions, like I said, please write them in the comments and I'll make sure to get back to you in a timely manner. Thanks so much for joining us, and see you in a couple weeks for our next 10-minute talk. We're going to be talking about the FAFSA. It's almost FAFSA time. So thanks so much and make it a great day.